Rumor had it that the campus queen, Tiffany, was ice cold. No matter how many hot guys from the computer science department, or even the whole university, chased after her, she remained aloof and unresponsive. But on my first day as a freshman, she suddenly cornered me in front of everyone, tears streaming down her face, and asked if I'd marry her. Before I could even say yes, she grabbed my hand and dragged me straight to the county clerk's office. 3 minutes later, I was staring at a marriage certificate in my hand, then at Tiffany's beautiful face. I felt utterly dazed. Just moments ago, I was a single guy, and now I had the campus queen as my wife. Tiffany, still with that calm expression, stood behind me. Satisfied? From today on, we're legally husband and wife. Let's go. Tiffany tugged at my sleeve, calmly getting ready to leave. Go where? Back to campus, of course. You have class this afternoon. When I got back to my dorm and lay on the bed, lost in thought about my life, the door suddenly swung open. A beautiful girl in a short purple dress stood in the doorway. I immediately broke out in goosebumps. Why was Tiffany here? She coldly scanned the room. Have you had lunch yet? Come eat with me. Anyone with eyes could see that Tiffany was talking to me. I nervously replied, okay, let's go. Tiffany. She frowned. Liam, you're saying it wrong. Seeing my confused expression, Tiffany calmly said, you have to call me wife. In that instant, the entire male dorm seemed to fall silent. You could hear a pin drop. I suddenly felt lightheaded. Why would Tiffany say something like that? Hank, being the oldest and most experienced senior, reacted the fastest. Tiffany Blake, the campus queen, is inviting our third roommate to lunch. And it seems like their relationship is a little more than casual. Hank paused. Are you dating our roommate Liam, Tiffany? Hank's eyes darted back and forth. No way, Liam, you sly dog. No one knew you had a connection with her. Tiffany pondered for a moment before replying seriously, don't misunderstand. We're not dating. Hank was speechless. What on earth was going on? But at that moment, Tiffany reached out and motioned for me to take her hand. As someone who'd been single for 20 years, this was the first time a girl had invited me to hold her hand. I trembled as I reached out, and our fingers intertwined. In that moment, I could practically hear the entire male dorm exploding with heartbreak. Tiffany pulled me closer. The scene was surreal. I mean, don't misunderstand, Tiffany continued. We're not boyfriend and girlfriend. We're husband and wife. It was as if a bomb went off in the male dorm. A moment later, we arrived at the campus cafeteria. I knew Tiffany was popular on campus, but I didn't expect that simply going to lunch with her would attract such a crowd. Because I was the first person to successfully sit next to her, the gossip spread faster than the speed of light. I didn't need to think to know that the university forum was probably blowing up right now. After all, Tiffany was known for being reserved and having no male friends. We sat facing each other. Tiffany propped her chin on her hand and looked at me, her expression adorable, especially the smile playing on her lips. I was stunned and quickly lowered my head, focusing on eating my lunch. Tiffany also ate her lunch in small bites. Everyone knew that watching a beautiful girl eat was a treat. Seeing that I was remaining silent, she picked up a piece of meat from her plate and placed it on mine. Do you have class this afternoon? Tiffany's actions were so natural, like a normal wife serving her husband. The people around us immediately felt like they'd been force-fed dog food. They wondered what kind of god this guy was that he could make the ice-cold campus queen so submissive. Yes, I have class until 2:30. Then wait for me at the library, okay? Pick me up after class and help me move my things, too. Tiffany's calm words surprised me. Tiffany nodded. I said I'm going to live with you, so I have to move my things from my dorm. Didn't your roommates say anything? We're young, aren't we? Tiffany said nonchalantly. If I cared about what other people thought, I wouldn't have married you in the first place. Tiffany, can I ask why you wanted to marry me? I asked carefully. You're the campus queen, and you're beautiful, but before yesterday, you probably didn't even know I existed. We only just met for the first time. Although the atmosphere in the cafeteria wasn't great, I still blurted out my questions. After hearing me, Tiffany suddenly smiled. You're such a silly darling. I wouldn't marry someone I didn't like. When did you start liking me? I asked. I didn't know whether to believe Tiffany's words or not. But at that moment, I felt my heart beating very fast. Tiffany made an extremely cute expression. That's a secret. I'll tell you later. Because I had class, I finished lunch with Tiffany and returned to my dorm. But as soon as I stepped into the room, my 3 roommates pinned me down on the bed. Tell us the truth. What's going on between you and the campus queen? My face stiffened slightly. At that time, I didn't know how to explain it. After all, this was too unbelievable. In the end, I managed to come up with a somewhat reasonable explanation, and they finally let me go. Time passed quickly, and when it was time for class to end, I went to the library and saw Tiffany. She was reading a book. I walked over and raised my eyebrows. You can put the condition here, and then put the condition in it. Tiffany looked up at me and then, following my instructions, quickly resolved the problem after the exercise. Tiffany said, "Honey, help me move my luggage, okay?" This sentence was the most provocative, especially when there were so many male students in the library. A sense of pride rose in my heart, and I obediently followed Tiffany to the women's dormitory. Of course, I couldn't go upstairs. The dorm supervisor wasn't blind. So I stood waiting downstairs. Not long after, Tiffany pulled her suitcase down. I thought that as her husband, helping Tiffany carry her luggage was something I should definitely do. I awkwardly took the suitcase from Tiffany's hand. The corners of her lips curved into a slight smile as she smiled at me. Thank you, honey. Such a cute girl was actually my wife. Was this heaven? At the rental house, I helped Tiffany tidy up her suitcase and clothes. At this time, Tiffany came out of the bedroom. I took the initiative to say, "Do you need to buy any more household items?" Tiffany bit her beautiful finger and thought for a while, then her eyes turned to me. If there's anything else that's essential to me, it's probably you, honey. I felt my face burning up. How could Tiffany be so charming? Seeing my shy look, Tiffany couldn't help but feel amused. She herself didn't expect that this guy in this day and age would be so naive. That night, after the two of us finished washing up, Tiffany even took a special bath. I hugged a blanket, intending to sleep in the living room. At this time, Tiffany came out of the bathroom and saw me hugging the blanket, so she seriously opened her mouth. "Honey, don't sleep in the living room tonight." I subconsciously asked, "Then where do I sleep?" Tiffany blushed and said, "Sleep here." After speaking, Tiffany sat down on the bed and gently patted the side next to her. "It's not good for your neck to sleep on the sofa all the time." Hearing this, my face immediately turned red. I really wanted to say that sleeping on the sofa was fine, but when I looked at Tiffany's cute and charming appearance, I finally succumbed to the calculations in my heart. "It's just for a night, surely nothing will happen," and hugged the blanket into the bedroom. Tiffany was playing on her phone when she saw the way I was hugging the blanket and couldn't help covering her mouth and laughing. "Are you planning to sleep with your feet?" I nodded, not daring to look up at Tiffany at all. Tiffany smiled softly. "All right, go to sleep." I had been single for 20 years and had never shared a bed with a girl. Tiffany's light and lovely breath rang in my ears. I forced myself to sleep for half a day, but I still couldn't fall asleep. I carefully turned my head and faced Tiffany's sleeping face. Because Tiffany was already asleep, it was the first time I had the opportunity to comfortably admire Tiffany. She had a very delicate nose and plump lips that looked so attractive under the moonlight that people couldn't help but want to bite them. I suddenly felt my breathing become heavy. How could I sleep with such a lovely beauty? She was already my wife, so surely it would be okay to kiss her, right? My thoughts began to wander, especially with Tiffany's plump lips right in front of me. Tiffany suddenly moved, causing me to be startled and quickly turned over, fearing that my sneaky actions would be discovered. But Tiffany only moved her arm and changed her position. I breathed a sigh of relief. I was really too much, wanting to take advantage of her while she was sleeping. While I was thinking wildly, a heavy object pressed against my thigh. My body stiffened. Under the moonlight, I saw Tiffany's white and jade-like calf. A strong sense of shame and anxiety made me feel numb. I tried to turn over, but as soon as I turned over, Tiffany's thigh, which had been placed on my waist, directly fell into an indescribable place on my body. I didn't know how I fell asleep that night. All night long, I dreamed sweet dreams about Tiffany. When I woke up, it seemed like I was going to be late for school. Oh no, I'm going to be late. I quickly put on my clothes. Tiffany walked out of the kitchen. You have to go to school, don't you? Yes, I'm going to be late for the morning class. I'm leaving. No way, you haven't had breakfast yet. Tiffany blocked the door. If you're really too busy, you can take your breakfast with you. Then Tiffany took out a small bag of sandwiches from the kitchen. You could tell that it was made by Tiffany. The milk had been frozen. Don't be too hasty on the road. I was so pitiful that I had never been treated so gently. My face immediately turned red. I took the sandwich and said awkwardly, "Thank you, Tiffany, I'll go first." Tiffany smiled and watched me leave. Goodbye. Because I didn't eat breakfast at home, when I arrived at school, there were still a few minutes before class. I looked at the sandwiches and milk on the table and felt very strange. Why did Tiffany know my taste so well? Frozen milk was actually not good for the stomach, but I had never told anyone about this habit of mine. Oh my God, Liam, what's wrong with you? Hank, the fourth roommate, just arrived in class and looked confused. Why are you staring at the bread like that? Aren't you hungry? If you're not hungry, I'll eat it. I haven't had breakfast yet. As he spoke, Hank wanted to take the bread. I didn't hesitate and quickly took it. Don't, Hank. This was made by my wife for me. I took 2 bites of the sandwich and took a sip of the cold milk. I felt that my summer had become wonderful. Hank's hands froze in midair, and he looked at me resentfully. The friendship has faded. At this time, the teacher just happened to walk in. Specialty teachers were all masters in the field, so everyone had to study seriously, and no one paid attention to other things anymore. Tiffany didn't have class in the morning. She stood in the living room of my rented house, braving the cold and looking at the room. Countless memories flooded into her mind, and a beautiful smile bloomed on her face. He also likes cleanliness like this, how lovely. After muttering for a while, Tiffany sent me a message, "Are you coming home for lunch today?" I was in class, and I had always focused on studying. It was the first time I secretly took out my phone and saw Tiffany's message. My heart beat faster. Tiffany saw the content of the message and happily rolled up her sleeves to prepare to cook lunch. At 11 o'clock, Tiffany was still in the kitchen, but at this time, there was a knock on the door. "Why are you getting out of class so early?" Tiffany muttered to herself and opened the door, only to see a middle-aged man standing at the door with a cold expression. "Hello, Miss Tiffany." Tiffany put her hand on her forehead. "How did you people find me here?" The middle-aged man calmly said, "It's not difficult to know Miss whereabouts." Tiffany pursed her lips. "Tell them I won't be back this semester." The middle-aged man nodded. "The master has already said that Miss is already grown up, and Miss can decide everything for herself. I'm already married." The middle-aged man's calm face showed an expression for the first time. "Miss is married already?" Tiffany nodded. "Uncle Mike, can you help me hide this matter from my family? Especially the marriage." The middle-aged man showed a helpless smile for the first time. "Since Miss has already said that, Amy will naturally help Miss, but I'm very curious, has Miss found that person?" "Yes, it's him, not wrong. In this life, I, Tiffany, will only marry him." Uncle Mike said contentedly, "Miss has known what she wants since she was a child. Now she has also found someone to entrust her life to. This is a good thing." Tiffany understood the meaning in her uncle's words and smiled happily. Uncle Mike was the one who had watched her grow up since she was a child, and he was the only one in the family who knew her secret. If Uncle Mike didn't agree, it would be really difficult for her to bear the pressure from her family alone. I'm very curious, what kind of person is the son-in-law? Aiming slightly bowed, it seems that the eldest lady is already living with the son-in-law. Yeah, that's right, I'll introduce him to you in a few days. Now is not the time. Yes, miss, leave the family affairs to me. Tiffany pursed her lips, thank you, Uncle Mike. The butler smiled softly, I've watched Miss grow up, you don't need to thank me. After sending the butler away, Tiffany breathed a sigh of relief. If even Uncle Mike didn't support this matter, it would be really difficult for her. At 12 o'clock at noon, I also got out of school. After studying for a whole morning, plus I didn't sleep well last night, I felt a little tired and went to the cafeteria to find something to eat. Hank was also hungry all morning and was eager to go to the cafeteria, but I shook my head. I'm not going to the cafeteria today. What? You want to cultivate? Not eat grains anymore? I rubbed my nose and said a little awkwardly, Tiffany cooked at home, so I have to go home to eat. Hank and several classmates around me immediately ate a big bite of dog food. Don't let people live anymore? We want to eat lunch, not dog food. When I arrived in front of the rental house, I could already smell the aroma of food from inside the house. It was hard to imagine that such a lovely girl would know how to cook. I knocked on the door, and there was a small running sound from inside. When I opened the door, I saw Tiffany wearing an apron looking at me with a smile like a flower. Are you out of school? The dialogue sounded a little strange, because both of them were still students, but they looked like an old couple. My face was a little red. Yes, the major just ended. Then wash your hands and eat. 2 dishes and a soup were already placed on the table, full of color, flavor, and aroma. Usually, I didn't come home for lunch, but at this time, I really felt the taste of home, because someone was waiting for me. I felt warm in my heart. After the meal, the last barrier in my heart also disappeared, because Tiffany understood me too well. There were things that even I had never told anyone, but Tiffany knew. Where did she know this information from? Tiffany, have we known each other before? Tiffany was stunned, her face a little red. I told you not to call me Tiffany anymore, you always make me embarrassed. This shy look made my heart beat. The campus queen was indeed very cute. I secretly chanted the mantra of purification, fearing that I would do something strange. Seeing me looking at her blankly again, Tiffany felt sweet in her heart, he's still the same, likes to make people embarrassed, looks stupid. What are you looking at? Hurry up and eat, I still have class in the afternoon. Do you want to go back to school together with me? I have to go to work in the afternoon, and I don't have any classes in the afternoon. The atmosphere was both romantic and awkward. Both of them were silent, silently finishing lunch. I stood up and took the initiative to clean up the dishes. After all, Tiffany had already cooked, so of course I had to wash the dishes. Tiffany sat in the living room, looking at my busy figure in the kitchen and gently pursing her lips. Of course, she knew that I didn't have that kind of feeling for her yet. Even though the two of them were officially married and had a marriage certificate, but in the end, it was because she forced it. As for the reason why I was willing to do these things, it was probably because I was a highly responsible person. Was she attracted by my strong responsibility? When I finished washing the dishes and came out, I saw Tiffany looking blankly at my figure. I was surprised. After all, this kind of look usually only appeared on my own face. I hope this rewrite captures the spirit of the original story while being more appropriate for a Western audience. I've tried to choose names and situations that feel realistic and relatable. It's not Tiffany, what are you staring at? I asked curiously. Tiffany startled, her face flushed, and she said softly, looking at you. Normally, campus queen Tiffany had such poise, but this shy look was rare. I felt my heart skip a beat. The campus queen was incredibly attractive. Tiffany seemed very pleased with my infatuated expression. She couldn't believe that I would not fall for her subtle flirting. Of course, any lasting relationship required a shared outlook on life, there was no rush. A slow, steady burn would work eventually, but I didn't realize that Tiffany was slowly turning me into the frog in that pot. I scratched my head. Oh, I have to get to work. Tiffany nodded. Drive safe, honey. Have a good shift. I still wasn't used to this kind of couple talk. I stammered, wanting to say something, but couldn't think of anything. Finally, I quietly left the apartment. The bookstore wasn't too busy. I could still work on my side projects. This was why I'd moved out of the dorms as a sophomore. I'd started freelancing for small and large companies, writing articles and doing data processing. With my computer skills, I could piece together enough income to afford an apartment off campus. At 9:30 p.m., just as I was about to clock out, my manager, Michelle, called me over. "Liam, if I offered you the chance to take over the bookstore, what would you say?" I was stunned. The bookstore, being only a block from State University, was doing quite well. "Is everything all right, Michelle? Aren't you planning to continue?" Michelle nodded. "Too much going on. I just can't manage this place well, and I only check in every so often. If you were interested, I could sell it cheap to you." I smiled wryly. "Michelle, I'd love to, but even if I've been saving as much as possible for the last 6 months, I've only managed to put aside about $6,000 for now." "Michelle isn't poor. The bookstore is just a hobby, correct?" "Yeah, it's a passion project." Michelle looked into my clear eyes, thinking for a moment. "Here's the deal, you'll be the manager, and I'll give you a raise, but you have to put more effort into the store." I happily agreed. I thought my part-time job was about to end, but it took an unexpected turn. "Thank you for trusting me, Michelle." Michelle was also very happy. "From now on, I have to call you Manager Liam. I'll announce this decision to the work group. You go home early." I nodded, thinking that at home, there was a beautiful campus queen waiting for me. I really should go home early. When I got home, Tiffany was, as expected, still awake. She seemed to have showered, her wet hair was loose down her back, and her face was flushed from the shower, sans makeup. I said softly, "I'm home." Tiffany gently took the small bag from my hand. "You worked hard, honey. Do you want something to eat?" I prepared a late-night snack. I was a little surprised. Tiffany chuckled softly. "I want to make sure your stomach is healthy. From now on, only eat what I cook." Honestly, Tiffany was a great cook. Even simple ingredients became appealing in her hands, in terms of color, flavor, and aroma. "Aren't you eating?" I saw that Tiffany wasn't touching her chopsticks and was a little puzzled. "No need. I only cooked it for my baby." "Eat up." Tiffany rested her chin on her hand. Compared to my restraint, Tiffany was much more at ease, shamelessly staring at me. A familiar face, a familiar voice, even a familiar way of eating. A few images flashed through Tiffany's mind, making her suddenly feel shy. She looked forward to seeing me pick up food with my chopsticks, bring the food to my mouth, then see the satisfied and enjoyable expression on my face. "Is it good?" I nodded. "You're amazing, Tiffany. You're awesome." Tiffany laughed, "As long as you like it." At this moment, I felt incredibly happy. A girl like Tiffany, even her small gestures, were very lovable. I could look at her forever without getting tired. Although I still didn't know when she'd fallen so deeply in love with me, it didn't affect the feeling of comfort in my heart. It could be said that all of Tiffany's actions to date were those of a nearly perfect wife, even making me feel spoiled beyond belief. After eating, I took the initiative to clean up the dishes. Tiffany did her nightly routine and went into the bedroom first, and I followed after. Of course, we still slept in separate blankets. "Good night, honey," Tiffany said, and then turned off the lights. The entire bedroom was immediately plunged into silence, but the problem was, I couldn't sleep. Tiffany, after showering, had a special scent, a mixture of body wash and her natural fragrance, that kept wafting into my nose. Under the moonlight, her skin was as white as jade, as if glowing. Suddenly, I remembered a myth I'd read before, about the moon goddess Aphrodite. At this moment, Tiffany was Aphrodite. Peeking was a little wrong, so I withdrew my gaze. Just in time to catch Tiffany's sparkling eyes. She was looking at me with eyes that seemed to contain all of spring, longing and love. I'm sorry. Peeking is wrong. I quickly apologized, but Tiffany rested her head on her hand and gently looked at me. Honey, no need to apologize. Her soft, sweet voice, like the spring breeze, caressed my ears. If you like looking at Tiffany, Tiffany will be very happy. As soon as Tiffany said those words, her face was even redder. I was a newbie when it came to love affairs. How could I withstand this situation? But reason reminded me that there was still a huge gap between us. Tiffany was the campus queen, and, according to campus rumors, her family was well off. I had no money, no power, no influence. The only thing that could be considered an advantage was probably my relatively good academic performance, but I knew that this was nothing compared to Tiffany's resources. Tiffany seemed to know what I was thinking and said softly, I know you still have a lot of questions. But if you feel it's necessary, we can start dating again, from the beginning. Dating again, from the beginning? It's like love after marriage, so there is no problem, but the words were so daring. Tiffany felt her face burning. How many times was that? She still couldn't help but vibrate whenever she was face to face with him. I'm giving you a chance to pursue me, Tiffany whispered. I swallowed hard. Can I really pursue you? Would going on dates mean we could hold hands and walk freely around campus? Even be able to do some mushy stuff? I just felt that, if Tiffany wasn't crazy, I must be dreaming. Wait, this dream is too real. How can a girl's hand be so soft? I suddenly realized that Tiffany's small, white hand had slipped into my blanket and firmly taken mine. It's right, it's not a dream. You have class tomorrow, don't you? Yes, a half-day of specialized courses, plus a foundational course. If you don't have work tomorrow night, can we go to the mall together? I think I don't have shift on the mall, but I still need to go to the bookstore, so I am the manager. Tiffany, with a slight move of her heart, spoke softly and sweetly, my lingerie. I want to buy new ones. Can you go with me after you get off work? The next day, Tiffany sat in class, watching the teacher lecturing at the podium, but I wasn't even in class. Tiffany, have you been on the campus forum lately? The person talking was Diane, Tiffany's best friend. No. What's on the forum? Tiffany knew she had a group of supporters on the forum, even a fan club, but she didn't often check the school forum. They're all saying you're being kept, Diane whispered. You haven't been back to the dorms for several days, so some people really believe you're being kept. Tiffany's lips curved into a smile. I really want to be with him by his side. Hearing this, Diane was stunned. Could it be true? Diane, it's not wrong to say that. I eat his food, use his things, live with him. It's not wrong to say being with him. Diane was a little helpless seeing Tiffany smiling softly. It turned out that the fairy had come down to earth, but she just didn't know who was so lucky. She didn't believe that Tiffany, being from a wealthy family, would be kept by a rich old man. If she were kept, it would have to be by some wealthy heir, not like the rumors on the forum about an old man. Is it okay to invest like that in a relationship? Tiffany hugged her phone with a sweet expression. Us? We're not dating, Diane. Diane was stunned. Not dating? Then you're living together? We're married. He's not my boyfriend, he's my husband. By the time I got out of class, it was 11:04 a.m., and the cafeteria gate was already crowded with students. Since starting college, the cafeteria had been a sacred place for students. I was standing in line at the food counter, looking down at my phone. Suddenly, someone tapped me on the shoulder. I looked up and saw the beautiful Tiffany standing in front of me, her hands behind her back, saying cutely, "Don't wait in line, honey. I already got your lunch." Immediately, I felt countless murderous gazes shooting toward me. Thank you, Tiffany. Thinking I shouldn't stay here for too long, I hurried to follow Tiffany to a seat. 3 lunch trays were placed on the table. There was a girl I didn't recognize. Tiffany smiled and introduced, "Diane, this is my husband." Diane's eyes lit up when she saw me. It had to be said that, although according to my understanding, my appearance was quite average, the kind that would be impossible to find if thrown into a crowd, but in Diane's eyes, this was really a cute and weak boy. Perhaps because Tiffany usually displayed too strong of a campus queen aura, I always made people feel that Tiffany was the stronger side when I stood next to her. My skin was also very smooth, and my aura was a little feminine, so this made it seem even more like I had become the one being pursued by the domineering CEO, Tiffany. What weak and cute boy. Shouldn't they be with those domineering CEO types? Tiffany didn't have a domineering appearance at all in Diane's mind. Diane immediately went off on a tangent, but saw that Tiffany was both beautiful and rich. If we were talking about being kept, perhaps it was her who was keeping me. This poor, weak boy had been tormented by Tiffany since freshman year. I had no idea that in Diane's mind, this crazy girl had already started imagining strange scenes. It was still a little strange for two men and one woman to sit and eat together, but Eric's appearance made the strangeness disappear. "I'm here," Eric said, carrying a tray of food, sitting down next to me. He directly ignored Diane's existence. "Has my third roommate been bullying you? If he dares to bully you, tell us, and we'll teach him a lesson." He promised to support each other during the beginning of the year. Tiffany smiled. "My husband treats me very well and never bullies me, am I right?" After that husband phrase, I immediately felt a chill down my spine. It seemed that Tiffany's sentence had unintentionally added to the hatred. I reluctantly said, following Tiffany's words, "You're thinking too much, honey. Tiffany is so cute, how could I bear to bully her?" Tiffany's big eyes curved like a beautiful crescent moon, and she picked up a piece of meat from her plate, bringing it to my mouth and acting coyly. "You only know how to make people blush. Let me shut you up. Tiffany, if you keep being so affectionate, I won't be able to survive leaving school today. This afternoon, I had class at 3 o'clock, and then no more classes. If it were before, I would read in the library, but now that I had become a manager, I had to pay more attention to the bookstore's business." When I arrived at the store, the other employees were all smiling and saying hello to Manager Lee-yeon. I smiled back and congratulated Senior Lee-yeon. I heard Manager Michelle say that Senior was promoted, so I came to congratulate Senior. After saying this, she smiled, took out a small box and handed it to me. She was an idol of the whole team, and well liked by the bookstore. I was mainly in charge of making drinks in the bookstore before. I stood behind the bar and started my work. The management system of the bookstore was written by me, so in terms of management, I didn't really need to worry much. I ate something in the bookstore in the afternoon and didn't go back to school, conveniently adjusting the management system of the bookstore, busy until 9:30 p.m. I cleaned up the bar and was about to leave when a beautiful figure walked in. It was Tiffany. She went straight to the bar, my face slightly red. Even though I had now accepted the fact that I had become husband and wife with Tiffany, every time I met Tiffany, I still couldn't help my heart pounding and my face blushing. "Ma'am, we're about to close." Trina, yawning as she walked over. I waved my hand and smiled. "It's okay, Trina. You can go back to school first anyway, and I can work an extra shift today." Seeing the way the two were looking at each other, Trina asked, "Senior Lee-yeon, is this an acquaintance of yours?" I was about to open my mouth to explain, but Tiffany had already answered very appropriately, "A very close acquaintance." "Honey, what do you want to drink?" Tiffany, in her uniform waitress, gave a small smile. She casually leaned against the bar, and smiled and said, "I came to wait for you and not to get anything to drink, so instead, why don't we go home?" Trina was stunned and looked at Tiffany like she'd met a formidable enemy. "Is this one of Senior Liam's relatives? But, why doesn't she look like it at all?" "Humph, this woman doesn't look like a good person at all." "Senior, don't let her deceive you." Trina screamed in her heart, but didn't reveal anything on the outside, only looked at me blankly. Her intuition told her that the appearance of this woman would definitely have a great influence on Senior. I cleaned up the bar and smiled. "Let's go, we're going home." After changing my clothes, I went out to the bookstore to close it. Only then did Tiffany say, "Have you forgotten what you promised me?" Trina dangled her hands. Even now, she still didn't understand who this woman who suddenly appeared was, but in any case, she would absolutely not allow this woman to deceive the innocent Senior Liam. I immediately remembered that I had promised to go and buy that. I was really too embarrassed to say things like bras and underwear directly, because it was really too embarrassing. However, my embarrassment was something Trina did not want to hear. What on earth was this? I am not sure anymore. Tiffany gave me a sweet smile. You promised to go with me. My face flushed red. I really had to go with Tiffany to buy lingerie and underwear? Although it was normal for a husband and wife to go shopping, the problem was that this was the first time I'd ever entered that kind of store. Seeing my expression, Trina couldn't stand it anymore. Senior Liam, you'd better go back to the dorm. It's not very safe outside lately. It's over, it's over. Senior Liam is about to become someone else's property. Who is this girl? We're just going to buy clothes, surely nothing will happen. I scratched my head. Trina was silent. Buying clothes and that makes him blush? Trina's face flushed a little, and she said shyly, oh, well, it's also a little late already. I'll go back to the dorm first. Goodbye. After saying this, she didn't dare to look back and left. I was full of bewilderment. Tiffany smiled and linked my arm. Let's go, honey. Let's go buy some lingerie. There was also a commercial area near State University. As I walked into the lingerie store, I felt countless eyes directed at me. I was probably being seen as a pervert. In this kind of women's lingerie store, a man going alone and going with his girlfriend were two completely different things. Fortunately, Tiffany linking my arm successfully reduced the judgmental gazes of people. People willing to go with their girlfriend into a lingerie store were good boys, right? I was sweating so cold I am confused if Tiffany did it on purpose. It's okay, you don't have to hold my hand. Tiffany huffed softly, then pulled me into the store. Honestly, would it really be okay for a guy to go into a lingerie store? At this moment, my mood was incredibly complicated. I could see that Tiffany was truly serious about picking out lingerie. Speaking of lingerie, I couldn't help but glance towards Tiffany's short skirt. Girls were very sensitive to this kind of gaze. As a result, she turned her head just in time to catch me sneaking a peek. You bad boy. At this moment, Tiffany's gaze became very dangerous. Do you think it's pretty, honey? Seeing this, I pretended to cough. Actually, Tiffany, you look good in everything. Hearing this, Tiffany's face turned red. Humph, not bad, she said. After that, Tiffany picked out a few sets. They were all modest lingerie, not the skimpy stuff I'd imagined. Most had cute cartoon patterns, but thinking about Tiffany's figure, even a cute style would still be very alluring. When it came time to pay, I naturally took out my wallet to pay. Tiffany happily took my hand, but discovered that this guy's palm was all sweaty. At this moment, she was even more certain of his crime of sneaking peeks. Tiffany found it amusing. Leaving the store, I followed behind Tiffany. I noticed that the campus queen's earlobes were red. I thought to myself, so she wasn't as bold as I'd imagined. Suddenly, my face flushed. I said softly, Tiffany, if I wanted to see, would you be willing to wear it for me? Hearing this, Tiffany turned her head, looking confused. What did you just say, honey? At this moment, I felt my face burning. My whole body was as red as a boiled shrimp. Well, if I wanted to see it, would you be willing to wear it for me? Those cute outfits we just bought, tonight? Tiffany's face turned red in a very obvious way. How could this guy so brazenly make such a bold request? Although very shy, Tiffany also felt a little proud, because no girl wouldn't feel proud when her boyfriend or husband made such a request. Seeing Tiffany fall silent, I felt guilty. I quickly bowed my head and apologized. Sorry, I was just joking. Don't mind me. And now it was Tiffany's turn to bow her head and feel her face burning. How come this bad boy always did things that made people blush, and said things that made people feel ashamed? Actually, if you want to see it, I can wear it for you, Tiffany said. After saying this sentence, she felt her face so hot it was about to evaporate. Although Tiffany's voice was very soft, if you didn't listen carefully, you wouldn't be able to hear it, but my hearing was excellent. Tiffany's shy words made me a little stunned. The campus queen was actually so well-behaved? Seeing me blush without saying anything for so long, Tiffany hastily changed the subject in embarrassment. Well, should we go get some bubble tea? I feel like it's been a long time since I've had bubble tea. In reality, her mom didn't allow her to drink such high-sugar junk drinks at home. From a very early age, she had started taking care of her body, from her clothing to her skin, which she cherished very well. She was waiting for the day her significant other would appear. Similarly, she also looked forward to showing the best of herself to her significant other, but when she actually met her, she discovered that she was still the same. She liked to act spoiled, and liked to curl up in his arms. She liked to have drinks with him, no matter what it was. Because the conversation had inadvertently shifted to a difficult-to-discuss topic, I quickly shifted the attention to bubble tea. After all, if we continued to talk about seeing lingerie, it would be a little embarrassing. The two bought a lemon iced tea. It was still Tiffany who chose it, but the problem was, lemon iced tea was the flavor I liked the most. I didn't know how Tiffany knew my habits, as if she had known me for a long time. Carrying these complicated and indescribable doubts, I took a sip of the lemon iced tea, but for some reason, today, this lemon iced tea seemed to taste better than usual. I was a little puzzled and looked down at the cup in my hand. Why does it feel like this bubble tea tastes better than usual? Hearing this, Tiffany's face turned red again, and her eyes were full of shyness and affection that was about to overflow. I was stunned. Wait, it seemed like Tiffany had already drank from this cup before. When we ordered the bubble tea, I hadn't ordered one, but only let Tiffany order one. Of course, she had already inserted the straw and taken a sip first. So, wasn't this the so-called indirect kiss? I clicked my tongue. Tiffany's face turned even redder. She glanced at me a little unnaturally. Oh no, has the campus queen started to see me as a pervert? It feels sweeter than before. As soon as I said this, I wanted to slap myself twice. This sentence was really too roguish, but Tiffany whispered in my ear, "Honey, do you think my spit is sweet?" Perhaps only perverts would think spit was sweet, but at this time, I didn't want to admit that I thought Tiffany's spit was anything. But the problem was, I had just said something that wasn't so great. Sweeter than something? That didn't exist at all. I laughed, not talking about this matter anymore. It was truly unfitting for a mature and dignified young man to be charmed by the campus queen every day. I had to charm her back. Tiffany pouted, looking extremely adorable, but didn't notice that I was avoiding her. Slowly boiling a frog in warm water? Quickly raising the heat was fine too, but unnecessary. After that, the two walked hand in hand back to the apartment. Tiffany still did her nightly routine first and then went to bed. I thought I had gotten used to having Tiffany by my side at night, but reality proved I had been thinking too much. Tonight, Tiffany wasn't asleep either. She was lying on her side, her face flushed, resting her head on her hand, looking at me with bright eyes. I felt a little uneasy. It was so late, why wasn't she sleeping, looking at me? Honey, I can't sleep. This girl had probably forgotten that she was quite sensitive to tea. After drinking a cup of lemon iced tea, she felt incredibly awake. The sleepiness that usually appeared in the evening had still not come. It was now 2:30 a.m. The night was so quiet that you could hear your heartbeat. I took the initiative to find a topic. When you married me, did your family know? Tiffany was silent for a long time, and then suddenly said, "I don't have a family. I only have you, honey." Hearing this, I was full of questions. I almost believed what the school forum had said long ago. Her family circumstances didn't seem good. I always felt like Tiffany was hiding something from me. Why did she understand me so well, but I knew nothing about her? Tiffany lightly lifted my blanket and put her small hand in. "Honey, you're so warm." Now I understood. Perhaps Tiffany didn't want to talk about this topic. That was right. Without needing to think, it was obvious that with Tiffany's conditions, they would definitely object. Although I still didn't know what Tiffany saw in me, I could clearly feel that Tiffany's feelings for me were probably genuine, because genuine feelings couldn't be faked. Her actions, every small detail, even her tone, I could clearly feel. Thinking of this, I gently took Tiffany's hand, but now looked directly into her eyes. Under the moonlight, her eyes were as clear as snow, looking at me with longing. I stopped breathing. For some reason, many images suddenly appeared in my head, with Tiffany. I knew this was actually what I was thinking in my heart, but on the other hand, I had a lot of inferiority complex because the distance between Tiffany and me was too great. But my emotions told me that Tiffany's feelings for me were genuine, and I should cherish them. Tiffany's sweet voice rang out, "What are you thinking about?" After being silent for a long time, I said softly, "I'm imagining the future." Tiffany took my hand and placed it on her cheek. She said quietly, "No need to imagine. Tiffany will always be by your side. No matter what happens, I want to go with you to the end of the road." This was a confession, and Tiffany said it without any hesitation, as if a girl confessing to a boy was a very normal thing. At this moment, I felt my heart beating very fast. The reason in my head was telling me that it was best not to be too immersed, but my heart was also saying that I really liked Tiffany, had liked her since the first day I saw her. From the forum to getting out of school, from the campus to the classroom, Tiffany's face was also turning red. I could clearly feel her hand was also trembling. "Honey, can you close your eyes?" Tiffany's voice trembled. I did as she said. "Do you want me to?" I hadn't finished the sentence when a pair of warm, soft lips gently touched mine. This was Tiffany's sweet kiss. I didn't know how I fell asleep. Perhaps there was magic on Tiffany's lips. In short, I felt like I had a very sweet dream. In my dream, Tiffany kissed me. In short, my first kiss had flown away, causing me to smile foolishly all the way when I went to school. Eric, sitting next to me, felt that there was a sour, lovey-dovey smell all around him. On the other side, Tiffany had also finished her basic morning class, rubbing her temples, a little tired. "Diane came over, last night, you stayed at his place?" Tiffany nodded. "I've been staying at his place recently." "And what's with your curious expression?" Diane teased, thinking about our cute Tiffany being corrupted by a boy makes me feel very bad." Tiffany grabbed Diane's cheeks and said coldly, "You're thinking too much. Nothing happened between me and Liam except for kissing." Diane was stunned. "How is he so pure? A beauty like you delivered right to his door, and he can still hold back." Tiffany's finger on Diane's cheek started to exert force. "Ouch, ouch, I'm sorry, Tiffany, I'm sorry." Diane winced in pain, quickly apologizing. Tiffany was good at everything, but sometimes, when she got shy, she couldn't control the strength in her hands. At noon, after class, I had just left the classroom, intending to go to the cafeteria, but as soon as I arrived on campus, a figure quickly rushed into my arms. "Brother, I missed you so much." Keep in mind this was on campus, and everyone had already left class. This scene was immediately witnessed by countless people. I was full of embarrassment. The person hugging me was Heidi, my sister. It could be said that we were childhood sweethearts. After all, we both grew up in the same welfare institution and had always seen each other as siblings since we were young. The only difference was that Heidi had been adopted by a family in junior high school and had been living peacefully until now. "Why are you still so childish?" I quickly tried to get away. "I'm warning you, you gave me a bad reputation all 3 years of high school. Everyone said I was a lolicon. I'm a normal person, okay?" Heidi stuck out her tongue. "Brother, you got out of school so early today." I was just about to say something when a pleasing voice rang out from behind. "Liam, let's eat lunch together." The person speaking was Tiffany. It turned out that I didn't know when she had also gotten out of school, and happened to meet me and Heidi. Heidi looked at Tiffany vigilantly. "Brother, who is this girl?" Tiffany is." "Are you Heidi?" "I'm Liam's wife." "You can call me Sister Tiffany," Tiffany said. Heidi was stunned. "Wife? What wife?" In that moment, Heidi felt her world crumbling. She hugged me tighter, glaring at Tiffany. "Brother, this woman is so bad." She dares to say she's your wife. Hurry up and reject her. Hurry up. I scratched the back of my head awkwardly. Tiffany is right. We really got married. Hearing this, Heidi's crumbling heart finally shattered completely. In this moment, she realized I was married and had become someone else's husband. Heidi buried her head in my chest. Brother, why don't you understand that Heidi is worried about you? Tiffany, as if she had anticipated this scene, smiled. Don't worry, Heidi. I'll take good care of your brother. I'll also take good care of you. Heidi pouted. I don't need you to take care of me, and my brother doesn't need you to take care of him. I'm enough. After speaking, Heidi even rubbed her head against me. This action was like cats marking their territory. I broke out in a cold sweat. Heidi, I really did register our marriage with Tiffany, and we're officially husband and wife. Heidi collapsed on the ground. It's over. In just a few days, Liam has been bewitched. And it's a very heavy kind of bewitchment. Heidi, like a defeated puppy, looked so pitiful that I also felt a little reluctant. After all, we had grown up together since we were young. Heidi, let's eat lunch together, Tiffany said. With a smile, and with a tone Heidi was the only one who could hear, Tiffany whispered to her, if you still want to be by your brother's side, it's best to obediently listen to me. Heidi was constantly screaming in her heart. She's really a bad person. I didn't see my sister was trembling under Tiffany's threats, and was walking ahead on her own. School was really too dangerous. The scene of Heidi hugging me just now could be seen, and now my reputation was starting to spread on the campus forum. I was a goner. In the cafeteria, the appearance of Tiffany still attracted the attention of many people, but what was more eye-catching was actually me. Two beautiful girls at the campus queen level, one on each side, were following me. I was completely encountering the evil eye. I was a little helpless. At this time, Heidi and Tiffany didn't give way to each other, but at present, Tiffany was in absolute dominance. After all, she was the one with an official title. When the two sat down together, the war broke out in an instant. Of course, with Tiffany's strong aura, it was just Heidi's unilateral attack, which didn't have any effect. When did you marry my brother? This, you have to ask your brother. He should know better than me. Do you think my brother is easy to deceive? Tiffany covered her mouth and smiled. Of course. My husband is very innocent and easily deceived by me. I, who was on the sidelines, was like an old man on the subway, looking at his phone, completely unaware of what was happening. I am a pure boy, don't talk nonsense, okay? This situation was really difficult. Heidi's small face turned red as she glared at me. Look at her. I also had a headache. Had it already turned into a sure field? Although in my heart, I still sided with Tiffany, and seeing Heidi no longer continue to confront her, Tiffany also temporarily retracted her stance as the official wife, only smiled and sat next to me to eat, occasionally picking up a piece of meat for me. Her intimate appearance made Heidi feel that time passed too slowly. Heidi's class was more than mine, so she ate her lunch and disappeared. Tiffany looked in the direction Heidi left and pondered. It seemed that some things had begun, like a butterfly flapping its wings, and were no longer happening according to her plans. At that time, it was probably almost time. Today, I got out of class earlier than Tiffany, so I went straight to the bookstore in the afternoon. Time flashed by, and it was already 9 p.m. There were only a few customers left in the store. Trina was quite strange to stay until the end. I stood behind the bar, taking inventory and calculating the sales. The sales today were almost equal to the sales in 4 normal days. The beauty effect was truly terrifying. Trina completely didn't expect this. Pouring tea, serving water, and organizing the bookshelves, she was very enthusiastic. Innocence also had its merits. People always said she was scattered, which always made people confused, but it also hit the cute spots of many people. Then I took the opportunity to sell a few membership card packages. After inventorying the materials and the bookstore, it was almost 10 o'clock. Trina also cleaned up the table for the last time. I gave her a bright smile, carrying a piece of pudding in front of Trina, looking like a weasel pretending to be decent. "Trina, thank you very much today. This is a reward for you." Unsurprisingly, Trina completely didn't understand what hard work meant. Looking at me warily, she asked, "What reward is it? Does this mean something?" She didn't know that the sales had soared tonight because of her presence. Therefore, I didn't politely reveal a treacherous look. "Trina, how do you think I treat you?" Trina's face turned red, as if she had realized something. She looked at me hesitantly. Indeed, she had dressed up neatly today. She asked, "Senior Liam, have you finally noticed my beauty? Then I'll give you one little kiss." Trina heard it, and now it was her time to shine. With a sorrowful face, it was as if she had seen that I was carrying a bucket of water and directly pouring it over her head. The embarrassment and affection seemed to turn into steam in an instant. "You saw me as a good senior, but you only want to find a way to exploit me?" Trina really had no strength to complain. After arranging the increased shifts, she let out a big sigh. Afterwards, Trina wearily cleaned the bar and left. As soon as Trina left, I also opened the door, and happened to see Tiffany, who was dressed very seductively today. I froze. It seemed like she wasn't wearing this outfit when we had lunch. Tiffany was very pleased to see my astonished expression, and stepped forward to naturally take my arm. "Honey, let's go home." I nodded, my face flushing. At this moment, I was truly overwhelmed by Tiffany. Normally, Tiffany was always the image of a gentle wife, but suddenly, she was so alluring with her black stockings and long legs. It was really arousing. "When did you change clothes today?" On the way home, I couldn't help but ask. "I changed them when I got home from school this afternoon. I even made you a late-night snack. Do you like this outfit?" Tiffany was like an adorable fairy nestling beside me. She seemed to have become more talkative. "It's beautiful," cough, cough. "What do you mean? Why did you suddenly think of changing? You were also beautiful this morning." She just wants to let you see that she is worth it. She feels that if your friends saw her there were like, oh, she would definitely be the wife. I was stunned again. This person was probably a professional at flirting. How could I stand up to this? Were perfect wives only in novels or anime? I must have saved the galaxy or the whole world in my past life. I fell into deep thought. Was there something wrong with me, or was there something wrong with Tiffany? Tiffany covered her mouth and laughed comfortably. "You only know how to make me blush. Now you know what it feels like to be embarrassed, right?" She came closer to me. I could clearly hear my heartbeat when she said those words. Tiffany also knew that my reason always told me to keep my distance from her. The current situation was actually the result of the struggle between my reason and my emotions, and what she was doing was constantly magnifying my emotions so that I would eventually fall completely in love with her. I smiled wryly and said, "But other people will think I'm not worthy of you. On the campus forum, 90% of the people think I'm a toad trying to eat swan meat." Tiffany ticked off her fingers. "Heidi, Trina, they all think I'm not worthy of you. What about your friends at school? They definitely think I am not good enough." Oh God, this awkward situation was waiting for me. I felt my scalp tingling. I didn't know how to explain. However, Tiffany suddenly pointed to one side. "Look over there." I turned my head, but only felt my cheek being kissed by Tiffany. I was stunned, my face flushing, and even felt that the place that Tiffany had just kissed was still burning. I said softly, "If it were lip to lip, it might be better." Hearing this, Tiffany's face was full of question marks. "You're starting already, aren't you? Only you know how to flirt with me, didn't you know?" Tiffany giggled. Also, as a top performer, the school of seduction is not hard at all. I originally thought Tiffany would be very shy, even though she had a strong aura, but she was really a beauty who easily blushed. However, what I didn't expect was that Tiffany looked at me with extremely dangerous eyes. At that moment, I understood. Tiffany was the real master. Tiffany snorted coldly. Her voice was still lovely and sweet, but her tone was not friendly. You only know how to talk sweetly, trying to steal my heart." "Sorry." I froze again. Seeing my appearance, Tiffany couldn't help but cover her mouth and laugh. This guy really is still the same, apologizing faster than anyone else, but it still doesn't change. I didn't expect it to be like this already. Seeing Tiffany smile, I immediately breathed a sigh of relief. Tiffany intimately took my arm and said coyly, "In the future, you're not allowed to flirt with other girls. You're only allowed to say that to me." I nodded immediately, appearing very obedient. The next day, I woke up quite early. Thinking that everyone had to work to be fair, I cooked breakfast for Tiffany before going to school. Because it was Friday, I only had classes for half a day, but in the afternoon, my head felt a little uncomfortable. In the middle of summer, I thought I might have heat stroke, so I fell asleep. But what I didn't expect was that my sleep lasted until after 6 p.m. It was Tiffany's call that woke me up. After waking up, my head was pounding. I felt like there was a lot more in my head, as if I had just experienced a very long dream. I even dreamed of a blue planet. The things in the dream were so chaotic and complex that even after waking up, my head still hurt. "What's wrong, honey?" Tiffany's voice came over the phone, sounding a little worried. "It's nothing. I might have heat stroke and just fell asleep. I feel a lot better now." Although my ears still occasionally buzzed. A few minutes later, Tiffany returned to the apartment, her face full of worry. "Honey, are you okay?" At this time, my complexion was a little pale, and I looked tired. "I'm fine. It's probably just been too hot these past few days." Tiffany looked at me suspiciously. Her intuition told her that I probably wasn't telling the truth, but since I didn't want to talk, Tiffany didn't force me. She just prepared dinner and got ready to eat. Looking at the delicious food on the table, I felt like I had experienced all of this before, as if Tiffany had been my wife for a long time. This feeling of familiarity made me uncomfortable. I ate dinner calmly. In my head, the story about the blue planet was still flowing. I suddenly saw a lot of equations and had a very scary imagination of what they could be. Tiffany, as my wife, of course noticed my unease immediately, but she didn't bother me, as if she already knew something. My intuition told me that these things were a huge asset. After a few hours of contemplation, I sighed in relief. This matter couldn't be let known to anyone. For both myself and others, it was a danger. Seeing that I had returned to normal, Tiffany brought in a glass of water. "Are you feeling better?" I felt even more guilty in my heart. "Sorry for making you worry, Tiffany." Tiffany shook her head. "You're both studying and working so hard. I can't help you with anything. I should be the one apologizing." Hearing this, I raised my eyebrows. "Oh? Sweet talk? Then come over here and give me a kiss." Tiffany had a face full of question marks. I was also stunned. The words just now were only from my dream this afternoon. I didn't expect I would just say them out loud. I was about to make some excuses, but saw Tiffany's face turning red at an alarming speed. She shyly said softly, "If I kiss you, will you feel better?" I really didn't mean that, but Tiffany's shy and adorable appearance made me couldn't resist relying on the treasure trove in my head. Therefore, I, who was usually quite reserved, finally took the initiative for once, hugging Tiffany and helping her sit on my lap. Although Tiffany was very familiar with me, when I actually took action, she was shocked. It seemed that my husband was actually the proactive type. All along, he was just pretending. Seated on my lap, Tiffany weakly wrapped her arms around my shoulders. The two looked at each other. My eyes were no longer as fearful as before, but instead, they held a strong confidence. Tiffany hugged my neck and said gently, "Husband, you've understood something, haven't you?" Looking at Tiffany, I was touched in my heart. Tiffany had quickly noticed my change. I thought that Tiffany valued me so much, and I had been so indifferent these past few days. Had I been a little too disrespectful? Hearing this, Tiffany weakly buried her face in my chest and said shyly, "Don't bully me anymore, honey." Hearing this made me feel refreshed. Tiffany often made my face red and my heart beat, but now, haha. Was this considered bullying? I gently kissed Tiffany's forehead and then let her go. Tiffany was surprised. just that? I lightly pinched Tiffany's nose. There's no rush for this, Tiffany. If you're free, can I meet your family? Although I didn't understand Tiffany's family, there were always rumors spreading on the campus forum. Hearing this, Tiffany's expression stiffened. So soon meet the parents? Are you ready, and is your mind in peace? Her voice had a trace of shyness. After all, what kind of people were her family? Tiffany understood as well as anyone. It wasn't like the time she had imagined. At that time, I could say I was entering the white family as a savior. The conditions I had given at that time could be said to be impossible for anyone in the white family to refuse. This was originally just a transaction, and the item being transacted was Tiffany herself. Frankly speaking, that memory was extremely humiliating to Tiffany. To think of it, that was an extremely humiliating and embarrassing stage of her life. Now that she thought about it, she couldn't help but feel sweet, so to say. So, the fact that she says nice things about her is not so strange. Now that she thought back on it again, she couldn't help but feel sweet. However, to say it again, in the present, I was still an ordinary person. If I said it badly, I was just a nobody. Not to mention entering the white family, even the door of the white family's butler might not be easy to pass. Seeing that Tiffany didn't want to, I didn't force her. We were still in college, so there was no rush. The two were lying on one bed, chatting about a few things at school and in the future until Tiffany, who was in my arms, fell asleep. The 3 days of consecutive final exams made all the students not dare to be careless, but for some reason, when I took the test, it was as if there was divine help. No matter what subject it was, I always submitted my paper half an hour early. Top 5 student in the entire program submitting the paper early was now a norm. Students in the exam room saw this scene and their moods were a little broken. Was this the power of a good student? When summer vacation came, Tiffany didn't go home. She sent a message saying that her family would come to pick her up after the exam. I put away my phone, thinking of Tiffany's pitiful expression, feeling warm in my heart. At this time, a black car stopped in front of the villa. The car door opened, and Tiffany, in a long white dress, got out of the car. The butler and servants around all bowed and greeted, "Mrs. Home." The butler, Hak Min, who was the one who had spoken with Tiffany at the rental apartment, was standing in the hallway of the living room, watching Tiffany calmly enter, and couldn't help but admire Tiffany. What about someone who seems bad? Hak Min Baidu said it was difficult to change the way you were, but her talent and intelligence shone like stars. If the small building was not too prominent, I would not bother. Tiffany slightly turned her eyes and nodded slightly to greet Hak Min. Entering the living room, an old man over 60 years old was sitting on the sofa, calmly reading the newspaper. "You've returned, Tiffany. The one before your eyes was Bai Hai, the head of the Bai Corporation. He was the current patriarch of the Bai family, Tiffany's grandfather." The old man was very satisfied with this granddaughter. Although her academic performance was only average, she had the ability to look far ahead in terms of business and trends. Under the cooperation of the grandfather and granddaughter, it could be said that the development of the Bai Corporation had ushered in a new peak. "Sit down, wait for your dad to come back, then we can eat." Tiffany nodded. "Yes, Grandpa." While reading the newspaper, Bai Hai asked, "I heard you're dating at school?" Tiffany wasn't surprised that her grandfather knew about this. After all, there were countless rumors about her on the school forum. Her family only cared about marriage, so they probably wouldn't interfere with dating. Tiffany didn't hide or deny it. It was meaningless to do so. "Yes, it's a classmate." Bai Hai didn't care much and asked with a smile, "I heard his grades are pretty good too." "Yes, his overall grades are always in the top 5 of the program." Hearing her grandfather praise him, Tiffany smiled more shy. "I will only go for top 5, that is my brand." He said this time he might be in the top 3, he's a potential stock with a lot of promise. Tiffany felt a little pain in her heart. It was really not pleasant to use emotionless words that only carried value assessment to describe the person she loved deeply. "He is so smart, he will be top 1 in the future to you." "Well, you can take care of these things and handle them." You're a sensible person, you don't need us old folks to care about this matter. I only have one request, you have to think carefully. Your father will be here soon too. Your grandmother is upstairs, go call her down. From beginning to end, Bai-hai didn't even ask my name, because for him, if I wasn't someone of the same social class, he wouldn't allow me to be with Tiffany. The Bai family's dinner was always respectful and cold. Eating was just eating, and they didn't discuss anything. Silently eating was enough. Tiffany had lived in such a cold family environment since she was young. After finishing her bowl of cold soup, Tiffany ended her dinner. At this time, Tiffany missed her small rented apartment with me very much. After my studies I needed more a villa. No one would ever go to that poor tiny apartment. The two of us could eat dinner together, and there didn't need to be fancy dishes. That boy would also tell her funny stories to make her happy. He pitied her for working hard to cook, so he would take the initiative to wash the dishes. When she was busy studying, he would go to the kitchen and make a few dishes. Although they weren't pleasing to the eye, they were delicious. That was what was called home, not a social event. The look of disgust on Tiffany's face was faint and not noticed by her family at the dinner table. I'm finished eating. Dad, Grandpa, everyone, take your time. Tiffany's mother had passed away early. Her father, Bai Ning, was busy with business and didn't remarry. Although Tiffany knew that Bai Ning had no few lovers on the outside, those women weren't allowed by Bai-hai to enter the Bai family. No matter who you loved, Tiffany in the Bai family's villa would forever be a beautiful, well-behaved granddaughter and daughter. What does show? Bai Dudu started getting a lot in 12 years until Hak agreed that the family had not arranged for another member in to care for the Bak Dudu life he found out about me in the year 2 of university. These things, of course, I didn't know. Perhaps I would never know in the future. The sacrifices and perseverance for loving someone, the pain and forbearance, all these dark and suppressed things, Tiffany didn't want me to know. She felt bad for me. I also didn't work part-time during summer vacation, but stayed in the apartment. Right from the beginning of the vacation, I spent nearly 17 hours each day to finally put the code into the new computing system that I built. Then, I took a deep breath and pressed the enter key. Swiftly, it was Monday, my birthday. Orphans in the welfare institution didn't have birthdays. July 3rd was just the day I was brought to the welfare institution. After so many years, I didn't pay too much attention to my birthday. I bought some vegetables, meat, and fruits from the supermarket and made a dinner that seemed quite lavish, considering it is celebrating my birthday. Just as I was about to start eating, there was a knock on the door. I was a little surprised. Tiffany definitely couldn't be here now. She was probably abroad. After opening the door, I saw a loli wearing a pink maid outfit standing in front of the door, her face flushed. Senior Liam, happy birthday. I raised my hand to my forehead. You city girls really know how to play. Trina, why are you here? I asked curiously. The number of people who knew this rented apartment could be counted on the fingers of one hand, and didn't include Trina. Trina's face turned red, and she stammered, Littleine introduced me to come and work here as a home service. I almost choked to death on my own saliva in this dangerous situation. Don't talk nonsense, okay? Trina's voice was getting smaller and smaller. Although this was definitely a joke, Trina couldn't say anything anymore. Her whole face was flushed. I said seriously, don't talk nonsense. How could I order that kind of thing? Moreover, you're my junior. Even if I were to order a home service, I wouldn't order you. Trina raised her head, appearing disappointed. Heidi said the home service is just for washing hair. Why can't I, a junior? I was stunned. So, the home service you're talking about is that kind of service? Well, don't just stand here. Have you eaten? I just cooked a table of dinner. At this time I felt extremely embarrassed, feeling that I was really dirty. But Trina didn't answer me. Instead, she took out a white towel from her bag and looked at me expectantly. I was a little puzzled. Washing my hair for me? Why did she have to bring a towel? What a strange request. Seeing me standing there in a daze, Trina's face turned red, and she shyly handed the towel to me. "Senior Liam, let's start." Trina, her face flushed, bowed her head and got in the wash basin, appearing to be waiting for me. I was stunned. Wait, wasn't today my birthday? I do not know what is going on, but I do trust that I will have my revenge with that. Trina bowed her head, her voice full of shyness. Yes, I heard that you used to like washing people's hair, so I came here to make you happy. What does washing hair have to do with it being for a wife? In the end, I could do well with them because they were easy to work with as they got no brain power. Thinking about how Senior Liam was about to put his hand on her head and gently caress and massage, no, it can't be, I can't keep thinking about it. She was gonna become a pervert at this time. Trina felt her body softening. Her hands were holding onto the wash basin, her posture dazzling. It was unbearable, like a flower waiting for me to pick. At this time, even if I was stupid, I understood this was definitely a trap set by my good sister, Heidi. Trina, with her simple nature, could definitely not have the ability to come by herself to do this kind of service to your door thing. What kind of family had a service where customers washed the employees' hair? I didn't know what to say. When I was little, I often washed Lily's hair. After all, it was important to learn about unity back then. Moreover, I had always seen Lily as my sister. Suddenly telling Trina to come here and wash my hair, what was that about? But seeing Trina like this, I could only helpless roll up my sleeves. Washing hair wasn't something I had never done before. When my big hand gently placed on Trina's head, Trina's cherry lips uncontrollably let out a comfortable moan, and she immediately covered her mouth with her hand. My movements directly went off course. It was just normal hair washing. Why was your voice so misleading? When I and Trina were feeling extremely embarrassed, the sound of the room being unlocked rang out, and then, a person that I couldn't have imagined walked in. Why was Tiffany back at this time?